Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I am your host, Lisa Davis, and I am thrilled to have two wonderful guests today. We've got Jimmy Litecoin with us today, and then Uncle Cliff agreed to come up. So I'm super excited. I'm trying not to be too nervous. But I just appreciate you so much. If you guys don't know who Cliff is, well, most of you know who Cliff is. He is one of the most brilliant minds in the world, in my opinion. He's helping humanity, whether it's with health issues or technology. And I'm just really grateful that you would share your time with us. Thank you, Cliff, for stopping by.
Sure. Thank you very much for having me. It's, just an old bald guy doing what I have to do. So not a big deal.
Well, we appreciate it. I've just been blown away. I don't know if you know, but you're my crypto godfather. So my mom, Crypto Nana for MAGA or for LTC now, she was following Bix for a long time in the about silver and all that. And then he had introduced you to her and through his videos. And then we found out about crypto, of course, from your Alta reports and your work with Bix. And so you guys are just all part of the family to us. So honored to have you here. And we saw you jump in the chat last week when Johnny was talking about payments and technology and wanted to see kind of how you see. I watched some of the hearing today on the Wall Street bets situation and all the SEC, whether they're going to put more regulations in place on that. And there was a lot of talk about using blockchain to make sure that to get it to a real-time payment because I guess they have these big delays and then within that time it's manipulated. Do you see that being a solution to helping Wall Street or the markets, or will that be the destruction of?
The markets at the moment are a rigged casino, so they can't take truth they can't have facts show up. It's entirely manipulation. The people that control it depend for their income on the manipulation. Their income is vastly disproportionate to what they should be taking from it, just like you shouldn't have politicians on a salary of $200,000 a year exit from Congress with $10 million, right? It just shouldn't, mathematically should not work out that way. So this is the way it is with the Wall Street. So the theater we're watching now, in my opinion, will basically result in their attempting to hamstring the technology. They will reluctantly adopt blockchain, fighting and kicking and screaming the whole way over the course of later this year, but not as a result of anything that's going on in that theater.
Okay.
So that's all show for propping up the illusion that they're the authority, that Wall Street is this institution, just as New York Times is the newspaper of record. It's not. It's just yet another rag. And so they're trying to create and prop up that illusion that is dying under their feet. No matter, in my opinion, technically, no matter what they do, it will be implemented badly, far too little, and far too late. I actually think right now the crisis is upon us, and you guys are some of the very few people, like maybe only say 20,000 in the whole world, that recognize that it's happening at this moment. And so that's where we are on the growth period of this.
People can't even buy cryptos right now and get into exchanges. They're all locked up. They're all frozen up. Now, I understand a little slowing down, but it grinded to a screeching halt. I feel it's because of liquidity issues and things of that nature. And so I definitely think they just said, hey, stop anybody new from coming in, because this, like you said, the system's shutting down as we speak.
Many of the exchanges also attempt to do facilitation of trades, which is a real problem in my opinion, right? So they want to have a reserve of Bitcoin for those people that want to buy Bitcoin even if they don't have customers that want to sell Bitcoin. So they become, to a certain extent, one of their own customers and betting against their customers. And it acts to their advantage because it raises the prices and it does increase stability and so on. But it places them in this position right now where if they can't get it, they're just like the bullion banks and silver.
Yeah, it's I think it's going to wake a lot of people up that a digital thing or product can have a shortage. It's going to just blow people's minds, but it's people are being woken up.
Well, and
So
in Cliff,
slowly.
I'm sorry. Yeah, in Cliff's reports, in his Alta reports, I think it was in the Soaring 20s report, it talked about that cryptocurrency would be that kind of red pill, that tipping point for waking people up. And so I'm wondering, how do you see that playing out?
It's playing out as we speak now in a little tiny amounts, right? Because of this thing called hashtag bet on Main Street. Okay, that's where you go and you use cash for something and you tip big because you were personally able to weather the pandemic and the storms, et cetera, right? Probably because of cryptos. And so it's not a case of bragging or anything, but people that have cryptos will be more generous going forward. And that's part of the tipping in people's mind of, oh, look, really, it worked out. That funny internet money, all of the stuff they heard, because it was, I've had so many people call me a scammer. It was just unreal about Bitcoin and so on, right? And so as it comes out and we see all of the people that have been made healthy and wealthy by going down this track, make themselves a little bit more visible in society, you get more people on it and so on. It is the inevitability of change sweeping through humanity, and the changes are going to happen. It really, from my perspective in terms of doing future forecasting, I knew that change was a constant. It was just merely a matter of finding out what we would all peg our minds on for the next big change. And then you could say, okay, let's concentrate and think about this. And so that next big change is forced on us by the degradation of the purchasing power of the dollar, which has now dropped down less than 2 cents from 1913. It's forced on us by the elite who recognize the degradation of the currency system and were trying to drive this great reset. How many people didn't think anything about the safety and health of the economic system during the pandemic when all of a sudden they hear about the Great Reset and they start thinking, geez, if the elite are going to do this, what's going on? And so they start thinking in economic terms. So that was a big red pill for a lot of people, coming from especially the people that it came from. And so we're seeing this uncoordinated, spontaneous, organic, deserved backlash to the power elite and their minions all around the planet. So we see, for instance, Greta Thunberg being burned in effigy in India, right? With the appropriate oils and incense and all of that. They did it upright, but nonetheless, more pushback because of it starting to really dawn on people the nature of the control that they want, the powers that be want to exercise over all of humanity and what they are willing to do to get there. So this was, I think, really the large shock. Cryptocurrencies were the shift of wealth from the elite without us having to actually chop their heads off, go to their house and take their gold, okay? They were developing systems, cryptocurrencies, whether you believe they were part of the deep state or not. And in fact, it's even more ironic, more delicious in a sense, if you think that that Satoshi Nakamoto
created their own demise.
Yeah, they created their own destruction. And so many of us were smart enough to pick up on what was going and get in on the beginning of it, that the purity of it from the perspective of the elite has been polluted, because so many of us are going to become mega wealthy as a result of the shift of the wealth into this new system. That's why I was jumping up and down for so many years, because it was such an amazing opportunity to basically shaft the powers that be.
Well, and it just is exposing more and more. That's what, listening to that, listening to them use words, even in the Robin Hood, in their marketing, they say that we give our clients, I think it's best price, but there's something called enhanced price, and that's what Fidelity gets.
Right.
You get Robinhood gets best price. So it's like all these little words and manipulations that they've used on us for so long. It's like they're being revealed. I wondered what your thoughts on were. Today there was the Mars landing, supposedly.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Is that real? Is it not real? How does it affect us?
No, the landing's real, and their
Okay.
the tagline is both a lie and fraud and perfectly true, because their tagline is that they're going in search of ancient life. And then they go on to tell you they're looking for microbes, okay, little things in the dirt and that sort of thing. That's the lie part of it. They really are going looking for ancient life, because they know, well, we know that they know that it's there because they spend so much time and effort obscuring the photos coming back, hiding all of the stuff that's in there. Literally, you can see this in the photos as a digital analyst. I can look at the data and say, look, they wiped out a huge amount of detailed data here with this one color just constantly for this giant block of this file. So what were they obscuring? Now you see guys like Mars Anomalies and some of these other fellows that are on YouTube, which they go through the photos and the TIFF files and the JPEGs, and they look with their magnifying glasses, and they'll show you images of, gear and equipment and broken down buildings and people and all of that kind of thing. And sarcophagi and statuary, all of this stuff ancient or blasted by irradiation or whatever. And so NASA knows it's there because they spend so much time obscuring it, but our guys on the internet are so good that they're able to retrieve these images from the from the messed up files. And then people like myself can go into those files and say, look, you've got all of these hexadecimal numbers that go through basically what appears to be a more or less random numbering pattern as the file is built. You see all these different hexadecimal numbers representing pixels, the color, the hue, and the intensity and stuff, right? And so as you see the numbers, if you're just scanning them, they look like in a sort of a random pattern. A13, 12, 6, 8, 9, 0, 1, 13A, 6C, so on. And it just keeps going and going. And then all of a sudden you hit a big block that's, a particular number just repeated. And then you go and look at that image and it's an area where they've grayed it out or they've browned it out. So you know that they've digitally tampered with that file. And so it is real, and we're going to learn a lot of stuff, but we're going to have to fight to learn it. But they're going looking for useful stuff now. If you look at that particular rover, it is not designed as the other ones to go and just like sample little rocks and stuff. This is designed more for pushing things around and pulling and moving things, as though they want to examine something in particular in detail when they find it.
Interesting. Yeah, we were watching and I don't know. I just thought, is this real or is this not real? Or is this is something else going to be exposed? I have my conspiracy mind on.
Okay, well, that's something that's an aspect we need to discuss about our technical society these days as well, because we are in the age of Aquarius, the age of knowledge, and it's also the age of information. The problem is that our information is so cluttered with noise that we all have to become information analysts as opposed to simply information consumers. So we all know information consumers. They just pick it up, they don't filter it, they just accept it. And so, Biden can tell them anything and it's true. All right. So everybody else, you get the information filled with so much noise, it becomes a drain on you. It actually raises your cortisol level and drains your energy to try and filter through this stuff. That's why we end up reinforcing bubbles. That's why we put tight filters on what we take in every day. And you say, oh, no, I can't take another social media or anything like that. It physically taxes you. And so we're in this cusp of a period of time where we will all have to decide individually upon a collective way that we're going to deal with this aspect of our technical society, this noise overload, not information overload, but the noise overload. And I think that aspect of it is raising the anger that will fuel so many of the forecasts that were in the old Alta reports, like people breaking in and wanting to know real fact and stuff, right? We're right at that stage. And once they start tearing into these new files from Mars and seeing what's going on, it'll be that much harder for the elite to hide. There'll be that much more anger at it, and so on and so on. And there we go. It cannot endure very long.
Well, and you also had talked about how with our US dollar dying, basically that, there's this world of bribery and with the elites and all that. And when when their dollar is worth nothing to pay to keep their secrets, then that's part of those secrets revealing, coming out. And then I think that will blow people's minds as well.
Well, here's something we can do this kind of thing right now. Because we will be able to see the scientists and the other minions of the elite come out and sell items for sustenance when the dollar crashes. And one of those things is that I would be prepared to arrange for, say, some number of Bitcoin. Let's just pick a number. Let's just say 500 or 1,000 Bitcoin. I don't have these, but I know people that I could contact. So if you're working in a deep hole in the ground in like S4 or wherever, as the system collapses and you feel you're no longer under your oath or under fear of reprisals, I will offer to buy your UFO, that you've been working on. Even if you don't understand it, I'll offer to buy it for some large number of Bitcoin. And there will be people that will sell such things, just as we saw in Russia. Look at the basic thematic meme that went out of all the Russian scientists that were altering the stolen nukes in order to sell them as suitcase weapons. It was, the favorite go-to bad guy for a long time, because that kind of stuff happens. We'll see it again.
Does this tie in, Cliff, with what you were saying with like how the military will no longer get paid because they'll be getting paid with like a valueless currency? So the people will just, why are you going to show up to work, almost, quote unquote, if you're getting paid toilet paper?
Exactly. Well, no, if you got toilet paper, you might even be satisfied, right? I've actually that's valuable stuff.
Do I still sound like RoboCop? Somebody said I sounded.
I think your volume. If you turn your volume down a little bit, Johnny, that might help. I think your microphone's picking up your speaker because you don't wear headphones.
Can you guys? Do I sound better now?
A little bit there, yeah.
I sound a little bit better now.
Yeah, I really can't tell how to.
It's over driving. I think you're getting too much gain.
I think I got to go into the settings after, and I think I probably got the mic, like you said, turned up too high. I can join on my phone if it bothers people too bad. Am I bothering you? It's not bad?
Not for me, no. This whole thing about the tech disease affecting our brains affects beyond just our intake of the information. It affects, and it explains so much, it affects our decision making. It affects our conclusions. Because we deliberately have, on one level, we have to deliberately filter out stuff that we just can't absorb because we're already absorbing too much stuff, and we got to filter the noise out of that. And so we lose information that would otherwise help make good decisions. We also are in a position where we trust a source because they were reliable for a period of time, but then over time, they may be getting polluted by their own noise ratio for whatever that source is. We end up taking in more noise. We end up making more bad decisions. Those bad decisions go out into reality and affect other people, which in turn comes back and affects us. So this whole thing is like a giant stew that we're in at the moment, all amplified by these extra energies that have got us all hyped up anyway, many ways very subtle that we're not just instantly aware of, right? It's not like we're all on a caffeine jag, 20 hours a day, but the subtlety of the radiation is not lost on a lot of people. And they do feel that they're amped up and they just don't understand it. And this makes them worried. It adds to the stress and so on. So it's all getting into this. And then, we've lived through this last year. So this is the year where, as I say, the woo's going to come on out. And the woo is going to come on out, in my way of thinking, because of the crash of the dollar, is going to initiate a process where the bribed will become the unbribed, and that will start filtering out. Now, we also have a deadline on it now, because if they do their job, the intelligence agencies are going to report to Congress in June about UFOs.
Right.
And so we can presume that the leaks will start rolling out almost that same day, because the staffers that hear about it are, oh, it's just, it's just too exciting. They can't not blab about it. And so it'll start coming out fairly quick. And that's going to snowball along with all of the other problems that we've got going, because by June, we could expect, I think, maybe another 60 or 70% devaluation in the dollar. And if you want to see how fast the dollar is devaluating, just go and look at a Bitcoin chart and go back and see just how recently Bitcoin was less than 10,000. And then just start chopping it up. Exactly. And you see that, geez, in this last week, according to, the little marketplace, crypto marketplace there, that we see that, geez, Bitcoin's up 12%. Well, that's really, the dollar's down 12%.
Right.
So you got to look at it that way. Yeah.
And not just Bitcoin, but there's other coins. People are the fiat's being eaten in as well, Litecoin and lots of other coins. So it's exponential even to the Bitcoin chart.
There's the other thing too. I was thinking of Cliff when you're talking. Most of these financial institutions, they're so big. Most people that work there have no clue what's going on. They're absolutely clueless. They go to work. They got tunnel vision. They do their job, and they don't even think anymore, because just stuff's computerized. It's just they're on complete autopilot. So, you'd almost think like, well, how do they get away with this stuff and trick all these people? That's where the public's like, no, they can't be doing it, because how are they tricking all these people? It's like they don't know what's going on. The people that work at the local bank, they're not in on the scheme. They're giving a kid a lollipop, and they're supposed to have a smile kind of thing, and the people behind the scenes. So I think, as you're right, as people are waking up, they'll be sick to their stomachs. They're going to be getting paid in a currency that's valueless, and things could turn fast.
We see it in South America. We see it in the republics that have been devastated by tying their currency too tight to the US, and then that currency goes away. And it's like, well, in the 60s, it was Peru. And then in the 70s, it was, Argentina. And then in the 80s, it was Chile. And now we're back through a cycle, and now it's back into Venezuela again, that kind of thing, right? And so look to their reactions, and you'll see what will happen. It will happen here. So I had friends of mine in one of the crises in 2001, because I'd worked in Microsoft. I knew all these Microsoft employees and contractors who were affected by the currency collapse. I think it was Argentina at that time. Anyway, so they actually were in a serious situation where within a short period of time, like say 2.5 months, we were all shocked. It was like 80 or 90 days, somewhere in there. The city they were living in, which is used to be as good as San Francisco and all this kind of stuff, degraded into armed gangs roving around looking for things to steal or sell or eat. And there was one instance where this guy I knew was a senior Microsoft consultant, had to get north. He had to go to a family farm. It was like 180 kilometers. Along the way, he had to hide in bushes with his other coworkers that had decided to come with him, as they watched a armed gang beset a truck full of cows that it was being trucked in to be slaughtered and sold and stuff. And they hijacked the cows, killed them on the spot, killed the driver as well, took the truck. And so it was like all of that happened just boom, 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 boom. And this guy, he said, when he saw that, he'd seen the power go out, he'd seen the buildings, the tall buildings he worked in, the computers, everything shut down. Finally, he makes his way out of the city. And he said it wasn't until he saw that he realized, he's not on Earth anymore. It's not his old planet. And that's really the kind of thing that we're all going to have to go through. the world has changed. The nature of what we're going to go through is altering as we speak, and the economics is driving it all as the dollar is dying. It is not capitalism. We live under a crony communist system in which the communists are at the top and they let everybody underneath think that they're in a meritocracy that they control. That is ending, and it's going to be probably the greatest ending since the takeover of Constantinople by the Ottoman Turks.
Amazing. Wendell is watching and he said, so how soon do we need to get money out of bank accounts? And I would add to that, someone else had talked about, so if this dollar becomes worthless, and there's and you can't buy crypto, what are we going to use as money? How long is that? Is that transition going to be pretty quickly, that everything goes to zero and then something comes back up?
If we look to the past, we see that in the 1930s, we went through a similar situation. And we can say that the Depression didn't begin in 1929, although that was sort of the start of the process. It really began in 1933 with the bond crash. And so from 1933, the whole world changed because the bonds crashed. That was government to government lending and all of that kind of stuff, right? And so that crash was relatively rapid. So it was only 12 months later, and we started having caravans out of Arkansas and Oklahoma to head to California because of the horrific conditions, the Dust Bowl and all of that. And all of it was driven economically. It wasn't the dust that drove them out. It was the banks crashing, exactly, seizing the land and so on. So I would expect that when we have the major bond crisis, then that marks the giant depression that will occur globally. And it might be, 12 months later before but we're having the major diaspora now. People are moving out of the cities. So we're seeing that aspect of an echo of the 1930s already. But now what we're going to see is we'll see the bond crash, and then you'll see governments go broke, and you'll see all kinds of things. Like in my little area here in Tenino in Thurston County, they've already gone back to wooden money that's traded in the town of Tenino to encourage local businesses. And so we're seeing all kinds of currency schemes right now. Now, you were talking the other day about the MasterCard and Visa and cryptos, right? So we need not have a dollar to continue economic activity, or we could have nothing but paper dollars and let the digital go and still maintain economic activity, although it would be a different level. But your payment system with MasterCard was most interesting reading the details, because here's something that everybody overlooked. They were not offering to accept cryptos. They were, okay, they weren't really, that was really not the point of what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
What they're trying to do is to allow you to cash out in cryptos, to do business in digital dollars or digital lira for that matter, or digital euros, but take it out in real wealth at the end of the day as a business person and take it out in whatever crypto you want. And so they're trying to do this complex thing where they can get access to multiple blockchains. There's all kinds of technical issues, but it's also a different business model. So they're saying, take your money out of the fiat currencies, which will collapse even more overnight, and put it into cryptos, then take some of it out for your business the next day when you go into work. That sort of a deal, right? They're addressing it from a businessman's perspective. And they've got huge amount of technical problems, most of them dealing with time and latency. Because right now, everybody used to say Bitcoin was crap. Bitcoin is just crap. Digital currencies or cryptocurrencies are crap. They can't do anything. Even Litecoin can't do any kind of settlements. And it's like, well, compare them to Visa and MasterCard. You're not comparing apples and oranges, okay, at all. Because Visa and MasterCard are not payment systems. Payments might take days to reconcile in Visa or MasterCard. What they are is an insurance system against fraud. And that's why the merchants pay such a steep price. It's an insurance system against fraud where they maintain control of the money for this period of time in order to be able to balance it all against accounts and stuff, not instant settlements. So it's an illusion that when you put your card into the gas machine and pump fuel into your car, that it is settling that bill at that time. It can literally be 30 days later on those. And if you do business overseas, it can be 60 or 90 days later that there's actually a reconciliation in that account.
Further, Cliff, I've had instances, because I've always been in the payment processing business, people ran credit card payments and never settled them, because in a lot of the equipment, you have to manually settle the transactions. Now, typically, you do that nightly, which means, okay, you're capturing the data, you're sending it through, and then a few days later, you'll get your payment as
your reconciliation, right?
But there's people like doctors' offices I've seen it happen to where it's not a big part of their business. They're not thinking about it, and months go by, and then all of a sudden they look into it. They're like, we never got paid from the credit card sales. You're like, yeah, it never settled. And those sales just fall off, and they never, ever get paid. So what they were talking about doing is actually a big improvement to the system, because it's actually technically with the settling into cryptos. And
they have to, correct. It's real money.
Yeah.
Because you're on the blockchain, you can't float it, right? You can't hold it in suspension.
No float.
Right. So that's their well, so here's the thing. Okay, so I can't give financial advice. All right. So this is something we have to look at. So I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, so I have had people that had authority because of their association with government come and speak to me in harsh terms. And I took from that a warning as to how to keep these guys off my back. And one of the things I really have to watch out for is giving financial advice. So I can't say that anybody, XYZ person, should pay off their house. Personally, I'm not a fan of debt. I paid off my house as soon as I possibly could. Whenever I got into a mortgage, I did this extra 5% thing, so that I took an extra 5% and put it to the premium each and every payment. And so I took a 30-year mortgage and reduced it to 15 years. I took a 15-year mortgage and reduced it to 8.5 years doing that. And all it cost me was an extra 5% any given payment, right? And that can hurt over time, but if you live below your means and do it long enough, you end up wealthy. Wealth just accumulates to you doing it that kind of a way. So I can't advise people to pay off, any individual to pay off their house, but like I can say, I'm not a fan of having anybody own me through any kind of a mechanism. So we are in that period of time. And people will kill themselves because banks will foreclose on them in this process. We saw it in the 1930s. A vast number of farmers suicided here in the U.S. through Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Mississippi, all throughout that region, right? Because they were just hamstrung by the bankers and they saw no way to live. They were upstanding men and there was just no out. And so we're going to see that kind of thing again as a result of what's going to be going down in the near future. That's why I've been so fierce about getting as many people into cryptos and alternates as possible, because there is a way out this time. Now, at the moment, you can't buy cryptos, right? But a short period of time from now, you'll start seeing people that have like Bitcoin and stuff start deciding to spend out for a bunch of different reasons, one of which is going to be patriotic. Okay, because of the desperation we're going to get into. A lot of people will say, I made it through, I did well, you know, I've got X number of Bitcoin. And so they'll bust them all up, so to speak, and start selling them out one Satoshi at a time. And they'll start driving the cost of Bitcoin up at a Satoshi level by getting them into more and more hands for a greater distribution. This was written in the Alta reports. I didn't understand it at the time when it first started coming out. Now it makes a lot more sense that they'll do it for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is that Bitcoin will become so pricey, it'll be like having shares in, Berkshire Hathaway, right? And so went from, $100 to $100,000, that kind of a gain. Those gains are illusionary as the dollar is dying. I think we're headed, I don't know how long it will take because my system busted down, but in the process of going into sci-fi world, we will get to a point where technology comes out that technology will add such value that we'll be able to recreate the USA dollar as not as a Federal Reserve institution, but as a Treasury issued dollar that will have fantastic purchasing power. And it will probably be represented by a silver or gold or whatever coin, right? But it'll have fantastic purchasing power because it will represent the productivity that will be erupting out of the USA as we come out of this. Now, this is going to sound really weird, okay? But we are in a very, very, very fortunate position. The people that are progressives, that are straight, the world has to go this particular way, that has to have a certain slant on it, they're not. We have to exclude their thinking from here. The rest of us that react to the circumstances and cycles will see what I'm talking about. But we are as fortunate right now as the German population was in 1961, having had their entire infrastructure bombed into rubble. Same thing with the Japanese. We are as fortunate as those people were in that particular time. In 1961, Germany was just starting to get to the point where they said, well, geez, if we clean up all that rubble, we got some nice real estate, we can build something there, right? And they took that initiative, and the Turkish population, let's be fair, the Turkish immigrants rebuilt Germany. But at that point, that turned it into a powerhouse economy. Same thing happened in Japan. And it took them over the 60s and the 70s. But by the 80s, we started recognizing, oh, something had happened. You know, made in Japan was quality goods, all of this kind of thing. We're in that position right now. And so 20 years from now, 40 years from now, so, you know, the children and the children's children will be different Americans than we are now at the depth of our valley right here, because they'll be up on the peak of the sci-fi world technology. And we're starting that off now.
Speaking of the children, I was thinking about, the effects that going through the Great Depression had on the children of that time that became adults later and, were keeping food in their room and different things like that. What do you see as the effects of the children that are living through the C word and this
we
transition?
can look to that, to my grandparents, okay, because they came through the 1918 pandemic as kids. And and it was so you will find that, physical contact goes down, hugging goes down, in terms of the general acceptability of it. The portrayal of physical contact between people will become, in movies and videos and stuff, will become very stylized, and it'll have much more meaning though, because it'll be so much restricted because of this experience, right? And so I think we'll have something of a renaissance in nuance in humans understanding emotion and humans understanding their interaction with each other as a result. And so we'll get to the point where we have like stylized representation of gestures that will be able to convey so much meaning simply because we won't be able to do the contact, and we will have had an entirely different way of communicating. So it's strange to say to kids, and it's strange to say in a video environment, but 68% of communication is non-verbal, right? People think, oh, that's, you're watching them, the face and all of that. That's only a small fraction of it, all right? Because there's the sounds that the other person's body makes, and then there's the smells. And we communicate with smells. If you want to communicate with your dog, if you're a dog owner and you want to bond with that dog, you give that dog your breath when it's a puppy, and it gets to learn what's going on in your body and stuff. This is how they get dogs to sniff out cancer and things, right? Communication via scent. We do this with humans. I know all kinds of people because I've lived all around the planet, and Algerians, Greeks, Bulgarians, all different kinds of people that I've dealt with. They will not do business with you if they can't smell you, if they can't be close enough to smell your words. And they actually say that in Bulgarian. And I won't trash Bulgarian by doing that with my accent. But okay, so you black people, you go to a black guy and he says, you're having a talk and you're doing business with him and you're getting ready to conclude business, and he says, "You feel me, man?" And you say, "Damn right I feel you." Because that is the clincher in that culture that says you're on that same wavelength, right? And you can't feel someone through these kind of media, so it's going to be difficult to do business that way. Same thing with people that do smells and things. So we're in an entirely new world trying to get around this as a result of the exposure we've had to the CCP specimen that has caused us all of these kinds of problems. And it will affect those generations, and it'll affect business, it'll affect writing, it'll affect theater, all different kinds of stuff.
It's definitely presenting a lot of opportunity, though. And that's, I think, we're at such a time of change. And I think I think of getting multiple streams of income is important for people. And there's never been easier to do than going into this technological age, and where there's less face-to-face stuff. So it's easier to do stuff where you're getting referral income. Maybe if you're in crypto, I always talk about use your affiliate links for exchanges and stuff. If people need to buy, so they get a few bucks, you get a few bucks. You can now, back when I started doing sales, you had to go sign the person up with a pen and paper, and you could have a link somewhere people click on and have them all over. So there's a lot of opportunity that is popping up for people. And I think with all these different things that are coming up, that's pissing people off, it's waking up the population. And there's going to be things like where companies, A, the dollar dies, but B, they piss people off, which say, oh, you have to get the vaccine to come to work and stuff like that. A lot of people are going to question this, and they're going to.
It's already happened. Look at the U.S. military.
Yeah. So it's
one third. Yeah. 1/3 of the U.S. military has said, no, I'm an anti-vaxxer. And that's tremendous news for me. That's tremendous news, because we need these people to be healthy, and we're going to go to war. And the vaccine is going to make people very unhealthy in a short period of time.
And a lot of healthcare workers too won't get the vaccine. A lot of people, nurses and stuff, refuse to get it. And what's
for
that?
Obvious reasons, right? Yeah. Right. Let me explain that I'm not running data daily the way I used to in order to do reports. I used to have to run it for 45 days and then do 18 days of evaluation and pruning and stuff, right? So no, I'm not trying to run anything to get any more clarity about these emotional bumps. The other issue is that I'm running only immediacy data, and there's a real problem for me, because the amount of immediacy data I'm getting off of these streams that I can say are relatively pure from censorship is very small. So there would be an inbuilt tendency to put import on the words that not necessarily there, just because this one particular or two particular or three particular small streams of data are talking about these things, did not necessarily represent the overall emotional activity coming in from all the streams, right? So I'm not doing it that way anymore. I'm going to run it maybe every 30 days or so. I'm curious to run this just before the 25th of March. So I'll do it sometime before then. But with everything else that's going on, literally, I'm trying to get my own electrical situation set up here. I'm nominally, well, I'm helping out a lot of people that need help at the moment, trying to keep a number of households going. So it's been a very busy time. We have electrical issues. We've had power losses here from the storms. We've got another one coming in that I think will be the last and third band of this Polar Express thing. So hopefully, maybe 5 days from now, it ought to ease up in the center part of the country.
Yeah, we've had unprecedented snow and cold weather here in Oklahoma, and I think that some of this is starting. I just wonder if this isn't going to go really quickly, exponentially quickly, where people are going to be critically thinking when that mainstream media crashes, as well as the dollar dying. The mainstream media crashes, and then people before it was always, if you made a statement, everybody's like, where's the link? Where's the link? Where's the link? Well, I think with the mainstream media crashing, people aren't going to trust the link anymore. It's going to be more like, well, how did you come up with that? What was your critical thinking on that? And that I could see really pushing us forward, in humanity in lots of different ways. If we all woke up, got unindoctrinated.
Right. There's a problem with that, though, that gap, okay, that I was trying to talk about the other day, a mind gap that's appearing. And you get people that don't know where to turn. And unfortunately, the bloviating personalities are getting far more views than they really should. And so we've had a number of people that I've been critical of, for a really good reason, get extraordinary amount of views, and they're just spewing disinformation, and they're just going to misdirect all these people that are listening to them and this sort of thing. So we've got to apply our critical thinking to everybody. But I agree with you. We're coming to the point where the link don't matter. We don't care about the details. If you tell me that XYZ said the headline, oh, I'll automatically disbelieve it, right? If it's coming out of CNN, I know it's spew, so there's no point in even looking at it. Anything beyond that, if I need to know something, I'll dig down and find it on my own. And we're going to get a lot of that, but you will be able to know the people by the value that they create. So Reggie Middleton has gotten tons and tons and tons of crap. He's been abused by our federal government agencies repeatedly. And yet he will rise again during this period of time because he's not bloviating. Because when he says XYZ can be done this way, it can be done that way, or he wouldn't say it. And there will be a few of these people that will rise up as a result of this and become very, very famous. And like, we're going to see the new Elons emerge, that kind of a thing, right? As a result of the shift that's ongoing now. And Elon's not a cutting edge guy. All right, he's an investment fellow. He's not a giant inventor in that sense. He made money and then put it into these industries, companies that were already in existence. He didn't create Tesla. They had been founded by others. He didn't create SpaceX and so on. Well, he more created SpaceX than anything else. But the point is that we're going to be looking for new personalities to take over that level of lead. And I think we're within weeks of those personalities getting their first big kick up as a result of the next major leg down in the dollar. I'm very much curious to see what will happen over these next few weeks regarding the bullion banks, the central banks, and government, as the silver has now dried up. It has dried up. I've got people saying, oh, I can get this and so on. And pressed, they are saying, well, you know, I'll lay my hands on it and we'll get back to you and we can ship in 4 weeks. So no, they don't have it.
Cliff, what besides for that, I'm really interested in that too. But what about these people's power bills and stuff? And Jay Snip's been talking a lot about that. How people are going to get bills that could be $10,000+ and they only have the power on for a couple of days. That's something that I think will touch more like the mass populace. For like silver, we get it, but a lot of people don't know what silver is. So they're like, oh, something happened with silver. It could break the banks, but the masses might still not really get it. Like something happened with silver, the banks, no, they'll
get it. They'll get it when they try and contact their bank and they get to the landing page and there's nothing there.
They'll get that, but you see more with the power bill thing where that's more something where they're like, it's in their face and they get it more with that. No,
that's something that can be legislated away. So if there's enough of a giant outcry over this sort of thing, then the chicken shit legislature will cave and legislate it away one way or another. Just like they were sort of trying to legislate away student debt. What people don't understand, though, is that over the past 60 years, as the student debt system was engineered, it is now 2/3 of the backing of the Federal Reserve. So if you were to eliminate the student debt or monkey with it in any way at all, it's worse monkeying with that than Social Security. Okay, because if you monkey with Social Security, if you were to take away Social Security, they say that was the third rail of American politics. They were saying you would have a revolt because so many people depend on it for their retirement. It is worse if they monkey with student debt because the globe will revolt, because that is what backs U.S. Treasury bonds, is the promise, the pretend promise that Americans will repay the student debt. Once this is realized that will not occur, we have our bond crises. Once the bond crises happens, our government is then insolvent, and the check the automatic deposit that they put in that soldier's account will not buy milk for his child. And that's when we have a crisis. And we don't have leadership in office prepared to stand up with a spine and say, I know how to cure it. It's not going to be easy. Stand over here if you want to cure it. Otherwise, get the hell out of the way.
Do Do you think, Cliff, they'll try to paper it over and it'll just be it'll just completely hyperinflate like a wine? That's what I've been kind of predicting.
It is
Gotcha.
my hope. It is my hope that they will hyperinflate away digital dollars. So it is my hope, and there's some small amount of evidence in the data to suggest that my hope might be met, but that they would hyperinflate it to such a degree that you wouldn't care that your new paycheck came in because the cost of a Starbucks might be $80, right? Or something along those lines, and you just cannot pay it. But they're going to hyperinflate it away to the point where the digital dollar may collapse. If that happens, then all currencies in all countries that are physical currencies instantly gain vast quantities of purchasing power as a medium of exchange. No confidence necessarily, but merely as a familiar medium of exchange, they become very valuable, very much more valuable than the fractional penny that $20 bill actually represents in purchasing power now, simply because you trust it, I trust it. You think maybe it might be worth something in the future. So if I give you a steak, a $20 bill from the old days, you give me the 2 cans of beer you got in your refrigerator, that kind of thing, right? And so we're going to go to that level. And in local communities, just like with the wooden $5 coins over here in Tenino, there will be confidence at the $20 bill that's been circulating locally. And you may find that localities put their own stamp on that $20 bill, just the way they did in the 1860s when the banks collapsed in the Great Dixie Crisis, way down south, the land of cotton, Dixie song, right? And that was from the Dees, the $10 note that all the banks produced. That was the major level of one of currency all through the Missouri, Mississippi, all the way up into the Ohio River valleys. There was just a number of banks that operated on that. When those banks collapsed, local currencies were collected, and they had written on them basically property of, Medville, Tennessee. And it would just circulate locally, and it had value because it was their local currency that was on somebody else's printed note. And we may get back to that.
That's incredible to think about. If that happens, then so if your mortgage is, or all those contracts that we have written, all of our debt is written in US dollars. So then what happens to all that debt?
When you have a Great Depression, it's the banks that eat it. The banks collapse. You have no debt.
Okay.
That's why you don't want to kill yourself early, right? Let the bank kill itself later on, right?
Yeah.
Just hang in there, tough it out, and come out the other side. The banks, so that it is the creditor, it is the lendee, the person that lends out, who stands the risk and ultimately pays the price. And so now they will pay the price. Now, going to like Bix Weir's point of all the gold in the Grand Canyon and stuff, there's a lot of gold. There's been shenanigans about all of this stuff. I know this kind of stuff for a fact, independent of Bix, absolutely independent of him, and 30 years before he even started thinking about it. And those kind of things will be redone. We'll start mining gold and all of this. We're going to go back to a different kind of a country because of necessity, and that's going to be the whole world. This is actually, I think, the best thing that could happen to the planet is the death of the US dollar as reserve currency, because it will crash the CCP, it will crash globalism, it will force us to become self-sufficient, just as the Ice Age is happening. If we don't do it before the Ice Age, then we will be screwed when the Ice Age comes in and kills our supply chain and we can't get stuff. So we need to make it here now.
So Mame Crypto is on my show on Mondays, and she's from Brazil, and she was talking to some of her schoolmates, and one of them is this brilliant girl, and she's working with their government, and they're actually cataloging the resources of the rainforest, and they're putting them on blockchain. Could you see the US or maybe each country cataloging their assets, whether that's gold in the Grand Canyon, oil, underground natural gas,
the Brazilians are right. You're correct. They've hit on it. It is the biological assets that will be key. Remember the old, like the 2016 series, where it kept talking about where we kept getting hits about the USA becoming this organic herbal medicine like breadbasket for the whole planet. And that's the way you do it, is you like Veritasium, you tie the resource to the blockchain in a way that resource is maintained in its purity through the blockchain, through its use with the blockchain, every alteration of it being noted on its record within the blockchain as it goes forward. So you only have to look on the blockchain to find out exactly what has happened to every product that is used in your pure sleep that you just bought, because you get a code off of the back of it, and it's sort of like IDing everything. And it allows us to do resource swapping, and it allows us to do nation-to-nation settlement in Bitcoin that represents a grander connection to actual resources.
I want cannabis on the blockchain straight into my lungs.
Hey, no. Get the cannabis out of the way. Just go to dabs.
Oh my goodness. Well, I really appreciate having you on. Like I said, you're the person that when they say if you could invite one person to dinner in the whole world, who would it be? And for me, it would be Cliff High. So I'm so thankful that you came on and amazing knowledge with us. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Please give us a like. And Cliff was just holding up his product that he developed that helped him survive colon cancer, or actually kill the colon cancer. And that's pure sleep.
No, they didn't kill the colon cancer. Okay, we got to be real clear about that. All right, so because of you get stuff from YouTube, et cetera, all that kind of thing. So this is a recovery product that allowed me to go from 132 pounds back up to 162 pounds after they cut the cancer out of me. And it allows me to have the attitude that I get up every day at 67 and I can't wait to jump into work, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, so everyone can find that product and more information from Cliff at his website, halfpasthuman.com. And Cliff, I'm just really grateful that you spent some time with us today. So thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you back again.
Sure.
I have more questions I didn't get to, but
we'll save them for later. Yeah, we can do it again. No problem. Yeah, nice chatting with you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome, Cliff. Awesome. I've always been a huge fan. So awesome experience to be on a live show with you, and I'm excited for part 2.
Yeah, we need to get into, I'd love to be able to do some in-depth technical stuff because of all the things that are breaking out now. And we really need to get people exposed to it.
Yeah, my find on the Nikola Tesla, well, we'll talk about it some other time, but I found someone talking about a floating triangle vehicle that Tesla was working on. And so I was excited to share that with you, but we'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for watching. Please like and share this video. Get the word out there. There's a lot going on, and we want to help as many people be prepared as we can.